In the desert, I saw a creature, naked, bestial, who, squatting upon the ground, held his heart in his hands, and ate of it. I said, "Is it good, friend?" "It is bitter," he answered. "It is bitter, bitter," he answered. "But I like it, because it is bitter, and because it is my heart." Many red devils ran from my heart, and out upon the page. They were so tiny the pen could mash them, and many struggled in the ink. It was strange to write in this red muck of things from my heart. These are two Stephen Crane poems that are lovely examples of poetic imagery. So when we think of imagery, we, of course, you think of descriptive language, and usually we think of physical appearance of something when we talk about imagery. But imagery in poetry is actually all of our physical senses. So we have 5 kinds of imagery in poetry. We have visual, hearing or auditory, smell or olfactory, touch or tactile, and taste or gustatory. And we can see in Stephen Crane's poems that he uses a little bit of each. In the desert poem, actually Stephen Crane never titled his poems, but we give them titles. In the desert poem, he describes the creature talking about the heart being bitter. And in each of the subsequent poems, we get a lot of rich imagery, whether it's imagery that comes on adjectives or nouns. Those can both be imagistic for us, as well as descriptive. So things to consider when you're writing in imagery are things like nature, visceral metaphor or allegory. Stephen Crane also interestingly sort of combines and uses both figurative and literal language. Like when we think about the Many Red Devils poem at the beginning of this, he talks about the many red devils running out on the paper. And then he also talks about the literal ink and pen that he's using. So he's combining this sort of like figurative, almost nightmarish, there we go, nightmarish image into the reality of what writing is like for him. So this is really it as far as imagery. I would encourage you to look at poems you've already written and find if there are ways that you can include imagery. Imagery is a great way to help people connect. Oh, sorry. And finally, another great thing for imagery is, of course, poetry for young readers. It's a really great way to get people engaging with poetry for the first time, whether they're young people or whether they're just young to poetry. I'm going to read you one more image poem, but I want to give a really fair trigger warning. This is a lovely poem written by a man called Paul Celan, who was a Polish Jew during the Holocaust. The following poem is about his experience in the Holocaust. It's not spoken of directly. It's all spoken of through figurative language and imagery. But I think it's one of the most poignant and powerful pieces of literature that I've ever read. So if you are up for that, I'm going to read that poem last. I know I usually read all the poems at the beginning, but I wanted to give you a fair trigger warning on this one. Fugue of Death. Black milk of daybreak. We drink it at nightfall. We drink it at noon. In the morning, we drink it at night. We drink it and drink it. We are digging a grave in the sky. It is ample to lie there. A man in the house plays with the serpents he writes. He writes when the night falls to Germany, your golden hair, Marguerite. He writes it and walks up from the house. The stars glitter. He whistles his dogs up. He whistles his Jews out and orders a grave to be dug in the earth. He commands us, strike up for the dance. Black milk of daybreak. We drink you at night. We drink you in the morning. At noon, we drink you at nightfall. Drink you and drink you. A man in the house, he plays with the serpents he writes. He writes when the night falls to Germany. Your golden hair, Marguerite. Your ashen hair, Shulamith. We are digging a grave in the sky. It is ample to lie there. Black milk of daybreak. We drink you at nightfall. We drink you at noon. In the mornings, we drink you at nightfall. Drink you and drink you. A man in the house, your golden hair, Marguerite, your ashen hair, Shulamith. He plays with the serpents. He shouts, play sweeter, death's music. Death comes as a master from Germany. He shouts, stroke darker the strings, as smoke you shall climb to the sky. Then you'll have a grave in the clouds. It is ample to lie there. Sorry, I can't make that through that one without crying. It's such an incredibly touching and sad poem, and you can see how powerful the imagery is here. Sorry, it really gets to me. You can see how powerful the imagery is here when he switches from your golden hair, Marguerite, to your ashen hair, Shulamith. It has that really just devastating turn in the description of her hair, and then also in the change of her name, from her name to this diminutive, which is a form of sort of like sweet and loving phrase. Okay, anyway, that's imagery for you. I hope you can see that it's very powerful and profound. I don't know if I said it at the beginning, but that poem is by Paul Celan, and it's just a lovely poem. Of course, this is a translation from the original. All right, I look forward to reading the poetry that you write, and I will be back here with a real quick clip to get you writing happy or sad visual imagery real